Red Sox are making moves. Big moves last night, Milliken. Verdugo gone. Bye. See you later. Not going to miss that guy one bit.
What a wow.
Addition by subtraction last night.
Bye-bye.
That is a guy you should not miss in Alex Verdugo. Is anybody upset today in Red Sox Nation? Milliken?
If you watched Alex Cora, his little interview on MLB Network this morning, he was glowing. He looked like there was, pressure off his shoulders, one less thing to worry about, one less guy to have to babysit. I think it goes back to August when that whole incident played out.
Yeah.
Cora called it the hardest day he's ever had as a manager. That was the final straw. They were done with him. They've been trying to trade him for a year. That's the real reality. The Yankees and them were talking a year ago about Alex Verdugo. It's just come to fruition now. I think they had hoped always they were going to get a little bit more than they did. This is what the price was, and I give credit to Craig Breslow for not choosing a lesser package because the deal was in division with your archenemy.
Okay, so this is what I am curious about, even though I'm not too concerned with it. I'm more concerned with the Red Sox rebuilding a culture along with rebuilding their pitching staff and their team. And I have another point on that in a moment. But is the return good on this? Because I don't know anything about these guys. You got to tell me about these guys, Milliken.
I think it's a solid return. I'm not going to tell you like Breslow fleeced them or anything like that, but Richard Fitz, I'd compare him somewhat to like a Josh Winkowski, Eastern League Pitcher of the Year last year, will start in AAA, entering his age 24 season, ceiling of a back-end starter, something they don't have at AAA. You want to talk about blaming Chaim Bloom for things? There's no one in AAA right now. You would hope Shane Drohan was going to be that guy. They left him unprotected in the Rule 5 draft.
Okay.
So now this is someone, so instead of Matt Dermody starting a game for you in June or July.
And he was bad,
horrendous.
by the way.
Along with
bad.
the whole PR disaster, you have a young kid who should hopefully be able to make some other starts. Greg Weissert, reliever, up and down guy, more depth in that department. And then Nicholas Judas, someone who was drafted in 2023, 8th round, never pitched in pro ball, but someone the Red Sox liked. Another, issue with Chaim and some of the drafting philosophies, they didn't go after enough pitching. This is a guy they think he's 6'8", like 230, has touched 100 in college, intriguing arm they can kind of mold.
So that's what it is. It's intriguing. That's a good word to use. These are just intriguing guys that they think they might be able to develop and make into major league players. That's what they're hoping for with these three. Is that a fair assessment?
Yup, and Fitz is the main name you should look at. He was the 16th ranked prospect by Baseball America.
Does he go by Richard or does he go by Dick?
I call him Dick Fitz.
Dick Fitz.
I'd go Dick Fitz nicely.
All right, so just based on that assessment, that tells you the Red Sox were focused on dumping Alex Verdugo. They did not want him on this team anymore. That is why he was traded. That's why they've been trying to trade him for a year, as Milliken just said. We don't talk about this a lot in baseball. We talk about it more in football, and it's sort of what kind of guys do you want to have on your team, whether it be sports character or character in general. But when you're talking about Alex Verdugo, he proved to be a low-character guy. That's what he proved to be. And when Alex Cora finally called him out, do you think that was the first time he had showed up late? How many times do you have to show up late before your manager puts you on blast publicly in Major League Baseball in 2023? My guess is that was not once or twice that it happened.
That's the moment, it wasn't when you hit the iceberg. That was Houston and the Kyle Bearclaw incident. When it started leaking was that Blue Jays series after the deadline where you needed everybody on board. You needed to push after the deadline, after players were disappointed. That guy showing up late to the game when you needed him more than anyone.
And then he complained about how it was handled after the fact when he said, I think for me, there were certain things that could have maybe been handled a little bit differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, after
and then he
first...
said, and then he had like this Johnny Gomes-esque statement where he said, but at the end of the day, I kind of have been the front runner in a lot of categories where I kind of get aired out or I get a little bit of discipline that gets heard about. Okay.
See, after that big thing out west, it's like no strikes after that. Now you got to be the good soldier. And okay, so he had that thing, and people have issues, and they try to resolve them, and they become contrite about it, and you just try to be a better person moving forward. It's everything else and the dogging it and not being there and the showing up late to what we're going to do with this Patriots team when we're done here. Look at each individual guy, and were you all in, or there are times you checked out? And there were times he checked out. And it's not a good guy to have around because I think he is a leader. I think guys in there like him. Correct me if I'm wrong, Milliken. Like, he's a fun guy to be around. And guys like hanging around him. And if he's going to act that way, then me being a young guy, I'm going to act that way. So you're sort of setting the tone for the next year. And this is good by Breslow. Cleaning the air a little bit here.
So I will say there was some talk, especially around August and as the season went on, that guys in the clubhouse weren't a super big fan of him. They just didn't feel like he was responsible in terms of carrying guys. And that's so what you said, I think is
I'm talking about his whole tenure here, Tyler. Not just the bad stuff at the end, the whole tenure.
And I think that's what's so damaging.
When he was hitting and when he was running, he was pointing to the fans, smiling, doing the interviews.
Even spring training where he had, Devers was always next to him. Christian Arroyo, it felt like he was trying to step up and be one of those guys. He was the spark plug. But when he checked out after that August incident, he was so bad those final 7 weeks. He was the worst player on the team. And for a guy that was trying to prove and talk about that chip on the shoulder the first 2 months of the year, he sat there and basically complained about not being an all-star. He was out there when he got benched the first time, right in Cleveland, he was complaining. Well, how do you handle it? Instead of proving them wrong and finishing the year strong, you don't show up as your team collapses down the stretch.
Yeah, he quit, and that's who he is. And I'm glad he's gone. Glad he's off the team. I never liked this guy. Anyone who's listened to this show knows that. Never been an Alex Verdugo guy. Not a fan of when they got him in the Mookie Betts trade. Very much a fan of this trade. Goodbye. Now he's a Yankee. Makes it even easier to hate him. Yes, wonderful, great. He'll fit perfectly in Yankee pinstripes. Fun guy to boo at Fenway Park next year. That's what I would say about Alex Verdugo.
We got one.
Alex Verdugo.
I will say, in terms of the state of the outfield now with Verdugo, right?
Yeah.
This is a big bet on Wilyer Abreu in right field, I believe. Someone who I said at the end of the year, I think he's already going to be a better player than Alex Verdugo. Defensively is the biggest loss with Verdugo here because that is a guy who was a Gold Glove finalist. The bat, it's trended down every single season. It was a 100 OPS plus. He's a league average bat at this point. But you're putting a lot of stock in Duran in center field and Abreu being able to carry. I think you need an addition to this outfield group for me to feel super comfortable going into next year.
Lourdes Gurriel is a name that's out there, which excites me. That's a fun one.
Perfect. A guy who has a similar bat to Justin Turner, known for being good in the clubhouse, can maybe pick you up a little bit there. My question would be, do they take Yoshida, put him at DH at that point? Gurriel had a good year in left field last year. You let Abreu cook in right field, Duran in center, and then you have a young group.
What's he cooking?
Hopefully something good, better than what Alex Verdugo's cooked the last few years. That should be a decent outfield mix there. And that doesn't include if Rafaela pops.
Which he could. He could. That's definitely a possibility. But that's a lot of banking on we have guys in the system who are going to become better players and become good players quickly. I don't love that. I don't know that that is the time for this, given where they've been the last few years.
There's no denying the Red Sox. They are a lesser team to some degree today because you hurt their defense and you didn't add anything significant to the major league club besides maybe an up and down guy and a depth arm. We're waiting for that move to improve the roster. Until you do that, people aren't going to be happy. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, and Alex Cora with some comments that they've got to maybe improve from within. He said, I know the expectation of the fan base and everybody else is to add this free agent or sign this big guy, but I do believe from my perspective, we need our guys to be better. I hope that's not coming from the top. I hope that's not we're not going to spend money. We're not going to land free agents or big name players. I hope that's not what it is that's going on. I hope that's he's just saying, in addition to trying to do that, we also need our current players to be better players.
Well, wouldn't have Verdugo have been the top of that list when he made these comments 2 days ago?
Yeah. But when I hear that, I think he's probably thinking more along the lines of
Story.
Trevor Story would be top of the list. He has to stay on the field and he has to produce. That would be one of them.
Yoshida sticking and being the same guy from start to finish.
Yeah, Devers needs to have a better year than what he just had, right? So I think it's about Devers. I think it's about Story.
Casas, you need to show up not 2 months into the season, please.
Yep. He might even be talking about Jarren Duran, right? I mean, he could even be talking about him. I just think about the guys that I feel like will be here, right? Or you mentioned Yoshida. Like, that's another one. If those guys need to be better players over 162. So that comment sort of scared me, though, when he said that a couple of days ago. Like, we need our guys to be better. Well, sure, but you also need help and you need to improve your roster because it's just not very good.